you don't really know exactly how one person over another is going to physiologically respond to stress. We need to talk about some of that stuff.
Welcome to this week's episode of The Biz Reveal. This week's episode is sponsored by Sawyer Health Solutions, bringing affordable health coverage to self-employed business owners, independent contractors, entrepreneurs, individuals, and families. Excellent health coverage is now obtainable on the nation's largest networks at affordable rates and with low to no annual deductibles. Let Sawyer Health Solutions find the best plan for your specific situation. You can reach Sawyer Health Solutions online for a free quote at SawyerHealthSolutions.com. Sawyer Health Solutions, affordable health coverage for the self-employed. This week on episode 7, we are joined by Dr. Christine Hoch of Fort Myers Chiropractic Studio in Fort Myers, Florida. Dr. Hoch is a wellness coach and chiropractor who specializes in a variety of wellness methods, including chiropractic care, acupuncture, massage therapy, and physiotherapy. We will be discussing workplace stress and how it affects our health. Topics include what stress actually is, how it can affect your body, and ways you can reduce the effects of stress to live a healthier, more enjoyable life. You can see more about Dr. Hoch at FortMyersChiroStudio.com or call 239-243-8735. This is The Biz Reveal. And now, today's episode.
Today, we're talking about stress in the workplace. We are both small business owners, though we have different businesses. Probably our stress points are very similar. And while I don't want to necessarily talk about what your stress point or what my stress point is, there are ways to mitigate stress in your life. And there's good reasons why you should. For instance, when you're under chronic stress, your body starts to produce more cortisol. And cortisol is a hormone, and it affects your sympathetic nervous system, that fight or flight portion of the nervous system. And when that gets triggered, now there's a spillover to the autonomic nervous system. And when you say autonomic, think automatic. So heart rate, if your bladder empties or not, you're completely unconscious. All those functions, breathing, are happening without your conscious control. So when the sympathetic nervous system triggers that spillover, you get an increased heart rate, an increased cardiac output. So your body inside feels like you must be running from something, or you're going to fight something.
Which creates that anxiety.
Yeah, you get that anxiety. And really, you're just sitting in your office frustrated about something. And so a major outlet for that is exercise. You've got to kind of burn off that adrenaline. It sounds weird to say burn off, but essentially that's what you're doing. You got to use up that adrenaline and use up that hormone so that it's not making an impact on your body day after day.
So those people that say when they do get the stress or, something's really bothering them, they want to go run or they want to go work out. I just thought this is they wanted to hit a punching bag to try to get out some of that aggression, but it actually is physiologically.
Yeah, physiologically it will calm you down. It gets rid of. So the brain is so primitive. Our brain still thinks that we're cave people running from saber-toothed tigers. And so a little bit of stress triggers all this cortisol release and this cascade of hormone release, including, insulin. You start storing body fat because, you're going to need that conserved energy later to fight whatever dinosaur is chasing you. But we're not in that world anymore. We're just sitting at your desk. You're just stuck in traffic. You're frustrated with your wife. You're angry. Your kids are making you crazy. That's all it is. And so you've got to find an outlet for that stuff. Otherwise, it starts to impact your health negatively, like an increased cardiac output that has no outlet, that you're not exercising, will lead to high blood pressure chronically over time, can lead to, electrical changes in the heart, everything from AFib. Who's not heard of AFib these days? Other things will happen. You start putting on weight around your middle section, and that fat around your organs is not what you want.
Yeah. Because it just puts more pressure on those organs. It just puts more pressure
on your internal organs. And of course, the more fat you store there, the more hormone you store in the fat. So it's metabolically active. So if you have that fat around your middle, there's that hormone that can keep affecting your body.
Is it still, though, that everything, does it have to be exercise, or can it just be an outlet? Like, say, if you play an instrument, can you do an activity that gets your mind off of it, or does it necessarily have to be a physical activity that you're working out?
Well, that's part of it. I think physical activity has to happen. And we're bipeds. We're meant to be on our feet. So we're meant to be up and exercising. And it doesn't matter if you go for a walk, you run, you dance, you skip, you play hopscotch with your kids, jump rope, go to a gym, don't go to a gym, go for a bike ride. And it doesn't have to be for an hour a day. It could be 20 minutes or 10-minute increments throughout the day.
Right.
Going for a short walk after your lunch or something. But what you mentioned with music or reading or some kind of art is good too, because it takes your mind off of it. That stress was triggered in your head.
Right.
It wasn't triggered from a physical trauma. It was triggered by your thoughts, by your emotions.
You can do something that calms you.
Yeah. So you can do something that calms you down and rechannel some of that, or at least makes you take another look at whatever the thing that was stressing you out.
Right.
So those are practical things that you can do every day. Obviously, getting enough rest is going to be...
I think sleep is one of the big things that people don't realize. Sleep and water. I have found
sleep and water
cures a lot of things. Just getting enough rest so that your body recharge and do its natural healing that it's supposed to do is probably one of the most important things.
True. If you don't get REM sleep, you don't repair. All of your cellular repair, if you had an injury, let's say you injured your shoulder and you've got some muscle that needs to be repaired and maybe you're even getting care for it. If you don't sleep, it doesn't repair.
Right.
So you've got to get proper rest. And
what is proper rest? Is it 8 hours a day? Is it 6 hours a day? My son likes to think it's 14.
Well, 8 hours is a ballpark for sure. Some people operate really good on 6, some on 9. Teenagers and preteens, actually, all of the information suggests that,
don't say 14.
They might need 12 to 14 hours of sleep a day. They're just in their big growth. They're producing enormous amounts of hormone. They're going through a growth phase. Their brain development is different at that age, because it's all frontal lobe. So it's all emotion. More sleep is actually necessary for younger kids.
I'm not going to let him listen to this podcast.
Be like, Dad, she said I could sleep.
She said it's right. I'm still not going to do it.
And then you mentioned drinking water. That's for sure. Because I think as small business owners, now I'm with the public all day long. So I get 1 cup of coffee in the morning and it probably lasts me most of the morning, and I'm drinking water in between. But I have known people, accountants and other business owners, that just sit and pound coffee and Coca-Cola all day because they need that stimulation. And they're just,
until it wears off,
working away at their desk like crazy. And I say, well, when do you drink water? They're like, water? What's that? Yeah, your kidneys need that water to flush all that stuff from your system, and your skin needs it, and your eyeballs need it, and your brain floats in it.
I don't know what the percentage is. It's something like, isn't it like 88% of your body's water?
70.
Is it 70%?
70% of your body is water.
So, you got to fill that back up, right? Once that pitcher empties out, you got to fill that pitcher back up and put it back in there. And your organs and everything are made to use that. It's a natural thing, so put it back in there.
It is. Think of all the problems that come from a bit of dehydration. A little bit of crankiness can be just dehydration. Fatigue can be dehydration. Seemingly blood sugar type of things. People will attribute it to blood sugar things. Patients who clearly don't have a blood sugar problem, like, have you had any water today? Even some blood pressure problems. I've had recently a number of patients, young people in their 20s, that tell me they get dizzy when they bend over to tie their shoes, or they just feel lightheaded when they change positions. And, the first question is how much water you're drinking. They're drinking almost none. Well, your brain is floating in water. So is your spinal cord, and your blood pressure A big regulator for blood pressure is water. So think of blood pressure this way. Your heart is a pump, and all your arteries and veins are the hoses. If you fill the hoses to their maximum by drinking water, then you've got, pressure in the hose. If you underinflate the pump, you take away some water and the hose is not full to its maximum capacity, there's some laxity and the pump doesn't work as well.
Right.
You can't pump the blood from your feet up to your brain as quickly without enough water in the hose. So you've got to add the water back. So I've been finding myself giving out advice like, I want you to use some more salt on your food, help you retain a little water, and I want you to drink a whole lot more water. And 99% of the time, that takes care of the problem.
Now, what about those folks, though? Actually, two questions here. One, you got the folks that say, well, I drink tea all day, and tea is almost all water. Is it the same?
It's not the same. Your kidneys still have to filter out all the parts that are tea from the water.
So you're making your body work.
Yes.
To get that water intake as opposed to just getting the water intake.
Yes. Well, and I tell people, this doesn't mean you have to exclusively drink water, but, for every cup of coffee you drink, you should drink 2 cups of water. If you like to have an iced tea, hopefully it's not a pitcher of iced tea, but if you like to have an iced tea, at least bookend it with some water.
Okay. And see, what I'm hearing now is the problem that my wife has, and this was question number 2. She's a teacher. So they have to hold their bladder all day long. They get very short periods in between classes that they can actually, step away and go to the bathroom. So if you're doing all that water intake, I can hear people now saying, oh, sweet tea, coffee, water, water, sweet tea, coffee, water, water.
Yeah.
So you do have to kind of, I think, make sure that you understand that there are going to be, if you're getting the water intake that you need, there should be more bathroom breaks because it means that your body is getting what it needs. Because if you're not going to the bathroom, you're drinking a lot of water. That's because your body's using it all. You're just that dehydrated. Or
you're just holding it and stressing and stretching that bladder, which is never a good thing. There's something someone asked me this weekend about. Well, I must be drinking too much water. I have to go to the bathroom again. I go, well, what makes you think you're drinking too much? I mean, half your body weight in ounces is an adequate amount of water every day for you. So if you weigh 100 pounds, you should be drinking 50 ounces of water every day. Now, that's an exclusion of exercise. So we're in Florida. It's hot out. Mm-hmm. If you're outside sweating, you have to replenish that water too. So more than that.
Yeah. How does it affect the muscles? Like getting the right amount of hydration in your body and everything. How does that affect the muscles? Because obviously the muscles are going to be the tension, which is going to cause you a lot of pain and things that are caused by the stress.
So going back to stress, I mean, in response of muscle tension, you produce a byproduct called lactic acid. I think everybody's heard about lactic acid and muscle soreness. Well, lactic acid will sit in the muscles and it makes the muscle fibers sticky, makes them stick together. You've heard me talking about working out knots in your muscles. Mm-hmm. Those are just muscle fibers that are stuck together from that kind of tension being there all the time or an injury.
Okay, so if somebody gets a lot of those types of knots where you feel it in like your back or your shoulders a lot, or sometimes like in the leg.
Yep.
Would that be the same thing as like a Charlie horse? Or is that different?
Charlie horses are different.
Okay.
Charlie horses is like a full muscle, full on spasm that's uncontrollable. These are just small areas of muscle soreness. And anybody can reach up and rub their shoulders and go, oh, there's kind of a little marble sized knot or tender point in there. We call them trigger points. And so it's just an area of additional muscle tension where the muscle fibers have kind of all just clumped together. And a lot of times I explain it to people in the practice and like you've seen people with ponytails in their hair. Mm-hmm. How many strands of hair in that ponytail? And they go, oh, well, millions. Right, exactly. That ponytail is the entire muscle. The individual strands are the muscle fibers. And they're all laying in a certain direction laid out on your body. But when you bunch up those muscles under tension chronically and produce lactic acid, they start to stick together and clump up just a little bit, like getting a knot in your ponytail. So we try to work that out. Well, if it was your ponytail, you'd probably add some kind of conditioner to make it a little slicker so you could, run through the tangles. You don't have that option with your body, but you can drink more water. You can massage it and you can drink more water.
So the water acts as a type of lubricant.
The lubricant.
For the muscle fibers.
It flushes the muscle. So two things, a little bit of a lubricant, but it also flushes. You got to get rid of that lactic acid. You're only going to get rid of it through your lymphatic system, and your lymphatic system uses water to flush and pump things from the body.
And the lactic acid, that's the burn that you feel when you exercise, right?
It is.
When you're lifting weights.
A little bit of the burn is microscopic muscle tearing. The lactic acid is what comes secondary to that.
And the muscle tearing is how you build muscle.
It is.
Because it basically scar tissues itself, and then that's how
you
you're
recruit more muscle fibers to get the work done, and you start to get more muscle and bulkier.
So when somebody has those knots, because I know that's, again, let's focus on the stress part, right? So that is a telltale sign of being stressed out. I think that's most of us don't even realize that we have the stress that we have until we start feeling the physical effects of it.
That's true.
Because we get so used to having the stresses that we have. It's just, for most of us, we just call it life.
Yeah.
And then it starts really affecting us, and you get back pain, you get shoulder pain, you get neck pain.
True.
What can we do to prevent that? I know we have the exercise. Are there certain exercises we do? Is it just moving in general?
I think movement in general is going to help you because it accomplishes many things. Number one, it pumps your blood through your body. Number two, it gets rid of some of that adrenaline. And if it's pumping blood through your body, then it's helping not just your muscles, but your kidneys and everything else. So movement, digestion even. Movement is great for digestion. So, and all of those things can be affected by stress. I mean, how many people under stress become constipated or get diarrhea? I mean, you don't really know exactly how one person over another is going to physiologically respond to stress, but you can put them in a couple of different categories.
Sure.
And so when I'm taking an intake from somebody and they're circling all the things that are going on with them, I have constipation, I have tight muscles, I have this, I have that. I usually end up when I see a lot of stuff, I end up setting my pen down and go, I would like you to rate your stress on a scale of 10, please, 10 being the worst. And then they look at me and go, can we give it a 12? I'm like, you can, and I'll write that down. We need to talk about some of that stuff. I'm going to address the problems that you came here for today. But all the while that I'm addressing them, I'm going to show you how what your lifestyle has been like has led to these things, and what you need to do at home to peel it away so it doesn't keep happening to you. Small business owners, we get busy. We wear a lot of different hats. We do a lot of different jobs, and we tend to minimize the little problems that go on with us. Mm-hmm. Like, the sore back or the sore this. Oh, it only hurts when I do that, or it only hurts.
So I stopped doing that.
Yeah. It only hurts when I wake up. As soon as I'm, that's a problem. And if you don't make time for it now, you make the time and money to take care of it now, because the longer you have it, the harder it is to resolve.
Right.
And eventually, maybe a year, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years from now, you will be forced to address that problem.
I think I just had that situation in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you see that, like, 'cause I know you're in wellness as well as chiropractic, obviously. And I'm sure this is probably close to 100% of your cases is people who have waited too long before they come see you, as I did. I was getting the sharp shoulder pain because of the neck issue, instead of maintaining it. And
then you said, the back's not a big deal. Yeah. I'm like, well, it's kind of a big deal.
until I got the neck fixed, because that was my immediate pain. And then once that was gone, I started realizing how much my back hurt. And I think that, sometimes when you have multiple pains, you just focus on the worst one.
You do.
And then once that worst one's gone, you realize how many other things are hurting. And then you want to start taking care of those too. But the thing is, don't wait long that it hurts that bad.
It's so much harder to regain your health than to maintain it. And if you can catch a problem early, the recovery time is shorter. And then you have the ability to build from that experience and really make things better so that it doesn't happen again. But if you're just constantly triaging stuff, and I have patients like that.
Well, it's kind of like taking medicines, right? Yeah. And I think that medicines, and again, everybody has their opinion on this. This is just my personal one. But, if you take a painkiller to make a pain go away, great. Your pain went away, but you're not solving the pain problem.
Where'd the problem come from?
Yeah. So you got to go backwards, start working your way back and find out what's causing the pain. Then you won't need those painkillers anymore, hopefully, in most cases.
In a good scenario. So, I see a lot of people with sacroiliac syndrome. If you want to know what that is, Just Google it. But it involves the low back, and people will say hip. And then you say, well, point to the pain. And they point to their lower back and their buttock area. Those are your sacroiliac joints. Because we sit more as a society than we ever used to. When I was first in practice, herniated discs were what I saw every day, because their work was labor intensive. Those labor intensive jobs, like in factories, have turned to sitting on a stool pushing buttons. And that sitting all day, don't quote me, I think it puts something like 224 pounds per square inch on your L5 disc, which is the equivalent of having an elephant on your shoulders. It's actually more pressure on your discs than standing or running.
Wow.
Sitting. And people do it all day long, and
you feel like you're relaxing when you're sitting.
Yeah. And you're not. You're putting an awful lot of pressure on those discs, and you're overloading them all the time. So
when you're working on people, when they come in for one of those, back pains, one of those shoulder pains, one of those neck pains, as I did, 6 months ago, what's one of the first questions that you ask?
When did this really start? Because the man I saw yesterday said it started 2 weeks ago. And by his answers, I knew this wasn't the case. And I said, when did this really begin? He goes, well, 2 weeks ago. I go, but how many times have you had this? For how many years does this go back? The most recent
episode started
since I was 38. Yeah. So now we're talking 15 or 20 years. That's usually my first question is, how long has this really been going? Has this really and truly started 2 weeks ago? Right. And if so, I want to know how it happened, what you were doing, if this went back longer, tell me a little bit about what initiated it then. You're a completely different person now. It's not really going to matter, but I still want to know. And then it's different questions based on some of the other things they circled, like poor sleep. All right, you're not sleeping well. Are you not sleeping well because pain is waking you up? No. Okay, tell me a little bit more about, I just, I wake up and my mind is going. So I'm like, oh, what are you thinking about? It's work.
Now we're back to the stress.
Now we're back to work. So on that end of it, when I get to that point with someone, I said, you're going to maybe think this is a little weird coming from your chiropractor, but I would like you to keep a pad and paper and a pen by your bed. And when you wake up, whatever it is that's on your mind, I just want you to dump it onto the paper. Get it out of your head and on the paper. It's there because I'm a business owner. Guaranteed they're laying there going, I need to remember to. I need to remember to do this. I need to remember to call her. I need to remember to do. And if I just think about it a little bit harder right now, I'll remember. You're never going to remember in the morning. And then we wake up and go, what was it I was trying to remember?
I
was
spent 2 hours last night thinking about.
Ruining my sleep, and I still don't remember. So I got into the habit of keeping a diary or a pen and paper by the bed, and I just dump it onto the paper. It gives me a little peace of mind. I can go back to sleep. I won't forget it's on the paper. Maybe, especially early in business, I was waking up several times in the night writing stuff down. But eventually you get to the point where you're like, okay. So perhaps a good practice would be to journal before bed. That's when everything's on your mind.
I think a lot of it is, again, when you're wearing so many hats as a business owner, you're trying to keep everything straight, and everything is important. It's hard to prioritize, especially when you first start. It's really, really hard to prioritize because everything is the most important thing. And then you have all those things spinning through your head. I want to go backwards a little bit, though.
Yes.
When we are talking about sitting being one of the worst things you can do.
Yes.
So for those of us like myself, where I sit at a computer for easily 10 hours a day, because if that's
you and my husband both.
If that's your job, that's your job.
Yep.
What are some things that we as occupational sitters can do to not screw ourselves up because of the occupation that we have?
Number one, if you're on the phone all day, my husband's on the phone all day, video conferencing and phone conferencing, get a headset. Get a wireless headset. So you're not cranking your neck over and you have some freedom to move around. Number two, I was on him for years before he committed to do this. Get I'm going to say Veridesk, but I know there's lots of brands. Get a Veridesk. Something that you can sit at, something that you can stand at. Or even if it could be like, there's a stool at my front desk. So Rebecca is up there working and sometimes she's sitting in her chair and sometimes she's standing because we have a Veridesk up there, but sometimes she wants the happy medium. So we just have a stool that's sort of that in-between height and she kind of just leans on it. But it keeps her changing positions
times.
And moving around. don't do it for too long. I used to have to do this to myself again early on, back in the days where there was no internet. You had to type your newsletters and mail them yourself.
Right.
And you'd just be sitting at your word processor forever, typing something up and correcting it. Set a timer and get up.
Okay.
Pretend there's a water cooler somewhere in your house and go
that's
to
where
it.
Those water breaks or the bathroom breaks come in handy. So if you are drinking the water that you're supposed to be drinking and you got to get up every 30 to 60 minutes, at least you're getting up every 30 to 60 minutes. You're walking to the restroom. You're coming back.
Yeah. And I don't mean to advertise things like Apple Watches, but they have those things in their health apps where I know this because my friend wears one. And she says, well, it's time for me to move. And she'll just get up and she'll start walking in a circle while we're doing whatever it is that we're doing. Or she says, oh, it says I need to drink some water. So there's one thing. You can also set those kind of reminders on your own phone.
How much has the COVID-19 thing, since a lot of people are now working from home and they're not used to, have you seen more cases of stress or bodily stress because of, obviously they're not used to working there, so they don't have it set up ergonomically for themselves or whatever the case is, or just the stress of COVID in general and, everything that's going on right now?
I think it started first with students, because the students were told to stay home from school first, I believe, before a lot of lockdowns here in Florida happened. So now we have kids that were used to going to class, sitting in a chair at a desk with other people, now laying in their bed with their laptop, trying to get all their classwork and, lectures and whatnot. I saw it first in the students. She's neck problem. Mom brings in the child. She is having neck problems. And first thing I said is, where are you doing your homework? In my bed. I'm like, show me how you're sitting. I want to see what you're doing. It's like, all right. So do you have a desk in your room? No. Can you sit at the kitchen table? No, my dad's working at the kitchen table. Okay, so the bed it is, but let's figure something out to make this better for you, because you can't continue this way. Mm-hmm. And then, for the dad at the kitchen table, that's
a whole nother one.
Is the table the right height? Right. Is everything working good? And everybody's working from these laptops, and I have a laptop, but I have a docking station. So I dock my laptop and I have a normal monitor and a normal keyboard. So, and you notice, if you can see, my monitor's kind of high, but for me, my eyes go right to the middle of the screen. So it's the perfect height for me. So if you're working off of a laptop, the one thing that I would suggest is get a separate mouse and keyboard. Don't use the crazy little tiny mouse and the little keyboard.
Because of the way it...
Yeah, you got to have your elbows in here and you're just kind of like this.
It's not natural.
And then you've got to see the screen, which is down here somewhere. So even if you don't get a screen, you can put the laptop up on books to get it the right height so you can see it, but then have a wireless keyboard and a mouse so that you don't have to resort to using that keyboard and mouse. That's just one little thing you can do, but probably a great deal of help.
And I had actually thought about when I worked in an office and not from home, they have those little bicycle like pedal things that you can put underneath your desk. Yeah. And, it doesn't take much room at all.
Right.
You might move back and forth a little bit as you're doing it, and people might wonder what the heck's going on over there, but you're moving your legs, you're getting the blood flowing and things like that. And so I think that might be another good thing. But
think about on an airplane. If you've ever taken an overseas airplane ride, the flight attendants come through and tell you, it's time to move your feet. It's time to clench your toes, move your feet, stand up.
Stretch, yeah.
I mean, you're at a greater risk on an airplane because of, the pressurized cabin, but you're at the same risk sitting all day for blood clots, sitting at home in your living room.
Can you stand too much as well?
I don't think so. We're meant to be bipeds. We're meant to stand.
As long as you're standing in a correct position.
Yeah, as long as you're
not
standing.
Having your neck down. Actually, going on the neck thing too, because this is something I know has to be an issue. I've noticed it myself, but the phones.
Yeah.
The phones have got to be the number one cause. I don't know. I don't do the research, but
they're the worst.
You're constant. You're always looking down. Your head is always down, and your head weighs 10 pounds, 12 pounds, something like that?
12 to 16.
Less than others.
Yeah, some less than others.
But that's a lot of weight to be trying to hold up.
That's like taking a bowling ball, stretching your arm way out in front of you with a 16-pound bowling ball in your hand. How long can you hold it there?
So the strain that's got to put on your neck
muscles. And so back when I was first in practice, 1994, 95, 96, early 2000, early in the 2000s, when we would see x-rays of children, somewhat, I'm going to say children and use it as a broad term, anybody under the age of 26, let's say, they generally wouldn't see reversed curves in kids' necks unless they'd played like tackle football and had been hit a few times.
And your reverse curve would be going forward.
Backwards.
Backward, okay.
Kyphotic curve instead of a lordotic curve. So your neck has a forward curve, follows your trachea forward a little bit. It should, about 40, 45 degrees. And I never used to see much of a reversed curve in a kid or a straightened curve because you develop those curves when you're learning to crawl and walk. The spinal curves. There's 3 major spinal curves: a lordosis in your neck, a kyphosis in your mid back, and a lordosis in your low back. And if you looked at a model of the spine, it looks like a half-coiled spring, and it's for shock absorption. That's what it's for. An arch is a very strong structure, and which is why we use it in architecture all the time. And we have 3 in our body, in our spine. We have 3 more in our feet, but we have 3 in our spine. And when you lose those curvatures, you put a lot more stress on certain vertebrae, depending on how much loss of curve there is. So, for instance, like I said, I didn't see much changes in curves. If they had a whiplash injury, you could tell, oh, you've been in a car accident. They'd go, how did you know? I'm like, well, look at this. This usually happens as a result of whiplash. But now when I'm x-raying young people, I see it all the time. It's become the new normal on x-ray for me, which isn't normal at all.
Right.
And it's funny because radiologists used to make a lot of commentary about a kyphotic neck or a reversed curve neck. And now it's sort of a blurb on the radiology report. They're just so used to seeing it, and they go, we'll leave structural whatever to Dr. Hoch.
It's almost a given that it's going to be there.
Yeah. And it's from the device use. And I'll be standing in a line somewhere and I'll see somebody and their head is at a 90, it's parallel with the floor. So at a 90 degree. And I think, oh my goodness, how many problems is that person going to have? Forget the neck pain and the headaches and the back pain. How is that affecting their heart, their thyroid, their lymph nodes, their eyesight? Because it's a strain. The optic nerves are being stretched away from the brain that way from the... Because of the angle. Because of the angle of the head. So I just wonder how many problems those people will have. Sinusitis and allergies and chronic stuffiness is real common with neck subluxations.
Really? And that's just because of the strain that it's putting on the natural shape of the strain.
But you start moving those bones out of place. Now think of the breaker box in your garage. Here we have them in the garage, but in Illinois we had them in the basement.
Right.
So you've got all of these breakers, and they're all lined up a certain way. And this one goes to the kitchen, this one goes to the stove, this one goes to the east wall, this one goes to the west wall, this one goes to the bathroom. They're labeled. Your spine is the same way. C1, C2, C3, down to C7, 12 vertebrae, 5 lumbar.
And then you see that one orange spot.
They're all labeled, and each vertebrae has a pair of nerve endings coming off the right and the left side, and they branch and become all of your nerves in your body. This is where they originate from the spinal cord. So if you start changing the position of the neck, you start putting pressure, not just on the muscular, structures, but on the nerves themselves. Almost like swapping a breaker in your fuse box. You go in, the lights are out on the east wall of the kitchen. You go in, you find, oh yeah, look, it's not in line with the rest of them. It's over here. You flip it on, the lights go back on. Well, it's a very simplistic way to explain spinal nerve function and how chiropractic works, but pretty much this is how it works. Yeah. So you get subluxated, that vertebrae gets out of alignment, or a whole bunch of them to get out of alignment, and they start squeezing, putting pressure on, overstretching those nerve endings, whatever the problem is at that level. And people will say, well, I get headaches, I have the sinus stuffiness, and I've got a TMJ and an ear problem. I'm like, you reach up there, start feeling around their neck, and like, oh, C2 and C3 are not real happy here. They're like, oh, it's really sore right there. How did you know? Well, you just told me what your problems were, and those problems are associated with this nerve ending, and this nerve ending comes from here.
So you can trace it right to
You can trace it right back. Someone who has numbness like you did, and you said, oh, it's my thumb and my index finger and part of my middle finger.
Right.
Like that's C6. That's the distribution pattern for C6. And the other two fingers are innervated by C7, completely different nerve root, one level down. So you can map out where the problems are. But when you've got the entire cervical spine out of alignment, like a young female student that I'm treating, she has ridiculous stuff, the numbness and tingling into her arm, grip strength loss in her hand. She gets pain across her upper back. She gets headaches. Anxiety is something that pops up with neck problems too. They just feel a little more anxious. And I think that's just a feedback loop with the sympathetic nervous system.
Well, I think too, sometimes when you just have pain, when you're in pain, I mean,
that raises your blood pressure and everything.
It's an agitation that, and so everything else is going to set you off because you're already agitated, because
Absolutely.
Pain it doesn't feel good by nature, right? So
nope.
Yeah, whenever, when I was having that shoulder pain, which when I came to see you, it was extreme. I was in tears just
We couldn't
breathing.
find you a comfortable position just to even receive treatment. Yeah.
And I apologize for that, by the way.
No.
But yeah, whenever you're in pain, the agitation, the anxiety, then it just spins off into everything else and affects the rest of your life because you're kind of being a jerk because you're so agitated all the time. And which is not going to make other situations any better either. So things can spiral out of control pretty quick.
Hard part about that too is once you reach that point, you become antalgic. Your body sits in a position that is most comfortable for it in the moment. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it's often a position that perpetuates the problem. Eat real food. Don't eat junk food. Don't buy things that have a long shelf life. They're not good for you. In that same token, if you're running a business and you're busy and it just puts more stress on you to have to cook every nighter, you can find companies that will do this for you. Mm-hmm. Fresh food delivered, whether it's just a kit of food that then you make, but you don't have to do the shopping, or some of them deliver fresh food already made. There's oodles of options. There's no reason why you can't eat well.
I like that you said that the longer the shelf life, the worse it is for you. Because that's true. Everything has, that's when they add all the chemicals and the preservatives and all that stuff too.
Yes.
So, and it's hard. It is, I don't want to say hard. It's more difficult. You do have to work harder at shopping when you buy those foods. But if it's a perishable, that's what you want to eat.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Other than honey. Because honey never goes bad, but it's a good thing for you.
True that.
So it's like...
But there's lots of companies that will, Blue Apron's one, HelloFresh is one. There's a whole bunch of them where they'll deliver a box of fresh food with a recipe, and all you need to do is cook and assemble that meal. Or you don't want to do that. There's other companies that will just deliver ready-made food to you. And they come in all shapes and sizes. Do you like paleo? You can eat paleo. You can eat keto. Hopefully you're going to eat low to no sugar, because your body doesn't. Sugar will make every ounce of stress in your body will get worse if you consume sugar.
Obviously we're talking about stress in the workplace and things like that. At work, if you're limited on time, some people get a 1 hour lunch break. Some people get 30 minutes. I think my wife gets 20. If she's lucky, if you have a very quick thing, or maybe you're on the go. You're somebody who drives and you have sales calls and things like that, and you're on the go a lot, and you have to pick something up somewhere. If you have to fast food, you're asking about. Yeah. Well,
there's options for that too. The grocery stores around here are Publix. Publix has fresh food ready to go. You can just walk into the deli area and pick up an already made salad, a wrap. There's fresh roasted chicken you can grab, and maybe some coleslaw. If you're talking fast foods, now there's going to be chemicals on fast foods because of the shelf life thing, but a good choice is better than a bad choice.
Sure.
So all the fast food restaurants offer salad options. So a salad option is definitely a way to go. And generally, if there's chicken or something on the salad, it tends to be grilled in those places. Now, I don't know how real their chicken is. I don't know if it's really grilled or not, but I'm going to kind of turn a blind eye to it because at least you're eating a salad.
At least something without breading on it.
But then salads too, you can buy them in the grocery store. They're in a kit in a bag. You just got to dump it into a bowl and eat it.
Right. What about like snacks? If you're sitting at a desk, like we'll go back to the sitting thing all day, you're sitting at a desk, and I know I like to have like a little bit of a snack just to kind of hold me over.
Fresh fruit is great.
Nuts.
Especially on an empty stomach, fresh fruit is great. You need your vitamin C. Vitamin C we don't produce. And if you're under stress, your liver uses a ton of vitamin C. So get your vitamin C via fruits and supplement. Nuts, separate from the fruit. Yeah. Almonds, walnuts, really good for you. Even pistachios. A handful is usually a serving. Whatever size your hand is your handful. That's your serving. Carrot sticks, celery sticks. Jicama, I think, is a really good versatile vegetable. It's got the consistency of a potato, but it's kind of sweet and watery like a water chestnut. I love jicama, and jicama tastes good with things like hummus. Fruits and vegetables are easy, and people will go to a Korean restaurant and snack on edamame, but why not at your desk?
Sure.
Why not?
And what I like about fruits and vegetables is they already come in their own packaging.
They are good to go.
You know what I mean? Like you got a banana, you just peel it and eat it. You don't have to worry about all the other stuff. So
that's true.
You're saving the environment at the same time.
That's true.
All right. I think that's all we've got for today. If you want to let everybody know how they can get a hold of you after the show, if they have any questions or would like to speak to you or see you.
You can always go to my website, Fort Myers Chiropractic Studio, chirostudio.com. Goodness, I don't even know. FortMyersChirostudio.com. You can always Google my name, Christine Hoch, Hoch, and lots of things will come up for me. I have a YouTube page and a Facebook page and, of course, the website. And you can always call the office and speak to me or my staff at 239-243-8735.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today. I learned a lot. Hopefully everybody else did. Everybody else, thank you for joining the Biz Reveal this week. You can always see us at the Biz Reveal podcast website at thebizreveal.com. We're also going to be on all your favorite podcast apps. Check us out there as well as on our YouTube page. Please subscribe and like and watch those videos as well. Till next time.